What is up, fellow bench warmers? Welcome to another episode of Fantasy Bench Warmers. I'm your host JJT with Komish. Today we are talking about the last four teams in our depth chart analysis. We have here Komish. Komish, last stretch, four more teams before we get on to other topics. Today we're going to be talking about Portland, Sacramento, Toronto, and Washington. Some very interesting teams as well. So let's get it on as I share my screen so that you'll see who are the players. Portland starters.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess it's
Who's your starters?
Dame, Simons, Grant are for starters. Nurkic is a starter. Yeah, Josh Hart, I guess, should start. But I'm always, I'm not even sure if Josh Hart would start because I feel like maybe Peyton starts from some time to time.
That would be a very small lineup though if they start Lillard, Simons, and Peyton.
Or
I think that
Nasser.
lineup. Yeah, I think Nasser will be the player that could start. I would say that the three small lineup that we just mentioned, that they will parade that during the game in the season, but not probably as starters. So I think it's either Josh Hart or Nasser Little as the other starter. I could see Nasser because Josh Hart, they'll need some help off the bench. They need some scoring if they're gonna start Simons and Lillard, so they need some scoring off the bench. So I think Josh Hart could be the odd
that's
man
his usual role, right? I mean, he's usually the sixth man there in the past teams, or not just the sixth man, maybe a bench player, but he is more than just a bench player here in Portland, because he's probably the fifth best player here, behind Lillard, Simons, Grant, and Nurkic. So those are the starters. Lillard, there's a lot of concerns about Lillard, but still being picked first round. Maybe just because of also another situation where there's just not too many options there in the first round as well. I know we talked about this. We're not as worried with Lillard. Being out of the first round. How do you see Lillard having a bounce back year this year, fantasy wise?
I've said it a lot of times. He's been playing hurt a lot of seasons, and last year it just took its toll on him after the Olympics. Of course, he played the Olympics, so that's also worse.
So he should be better, right?
Yes, and I look at it differently. When people see last year this guy got injured. If that guy is an injury-prone player like AD, like Zion or whoever, then yes, that has some you have to look into that. But if it's a player like, let's say, Chris Middleton, we just talked about last episode, now Damian Lillard, they don't really have his injury history. Maybe it's just a wear and tear because they played nonstop. And what happened last year might actually help them. And that's what I think is the case with Lillard. It helps him that now he's healthy, 100% healthy. So what do you think he can do, right? If he's healthy. Yeah. And he's motivated. He has a new contract. And they would be trying to contend. He has a new teammates in Jeremy. And then, of course, Simons is now his partner before his backup. Josh Hart, he hasn't played with him. So he's going to be motivated. He's healthy. I like Lillard even in the top 10 for me.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like, Portland would be, quote unquote, tanking this season. They might at least contend to get into that playoffs.
Try.
Yeah, at least try. Not like last year. Not like last year wherein they had so many fantasy, options towards the end of the season. So many silly season fantasy options like Kendon Watford, Keon Johnson, or sometimes
they're still there. Keon Johnson,
Brandon Williams, right? These guys are familiar names, but at this point, none of them will be fantasy relevant.
Drew Eubanks, the winning.
Yeah, I was just going there. The center spot though is not as deep this year with Eubanks backing up Nurkic. Nurkic also had
and
a decent
actually
year
Greg
last
Brown
year.
is the center. Greg Brown. I think Greg Brown is a power forward center, so he should be there. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's not that deep. It's not really a very deep
Nurkic
position.
had a better, I guess, better fantasy year last season, but again, injuries was not good. He played well during the qualifiers. Well, at
Yeah,
least
he played well.
he's had some good games. Nurkic 2 years ago was overdrafted, right? Drafted a little too high, second rounder. We've made those mistakes. I included had some teams with Nurkic being picked in the second round. Last year, he was picked lower, sometime somewhere in the 40s, maybe, if you get lucky, sometime somewhere in the 50s. So the expectations weren't too high. Now this year, heading into this year, where do you see Nurkic? Still there, 40s, 50s, because I can see
Yeah,
it.
still there. A little lower. He is dropped a little lower. I think sometimes he goes to the early 60s, but his rank is 59th in Yahoo, so his ADP will be around that range. Will be around the late mid 50s, start the mid 50s to the lower 60s. Again, he's now older, I guess. He's not like a Sengun. Because, someone like Sengun is, of course, the new apple of the eye of managers. So they will go to those players first, the younger ones, before Nurkic. And the problems of Nurkic as a player, as a fantasy asset, it's very, very clear. He's a high turnover center because, again, offense goes through him, and he can shoot free throws. He doesn't block also as a center, 0.6. That might People might not know that, but he's not. I don't know what happened. He used to block
Right?
shots.
He used to have
So,
great stocks numbers, right?
well,
Then
I don't know
after
what happened.
2 years ago, that it started 2 years ago when he disappointed
I
lots
think
of
it
fans.
started mostly when he went to Portland. I mean, that's where it really, it really went down.
Or maybe he just had a good bubble. Because I think that's where his value went up during the bubble. He played some great games there, some great, uh, stats. He showed some great stats, and I think that's where his value moved up for the following year.
True. That's possible. But it's weird. It's just from you're right. I mean, he was 2 blocks a game during that time. Now it's 0.6. So maybe that's it's more of that was an aberration. Maybe that was just a fluke period, but or maybe he's getting older, or maybe the defensive scheme's just different.
Yeah,
It doesn't, their scheme is more of conservative than being aggressive,
or
so that you can get
maybe
more blocks.
or maybe they don't play defense anymore. Because if you look at this lineup, I don't think anyone other than maybe some Nasser Little here and there or their bench players can play defense.
That's true. That's true. The defense, but their coach is Chauncey Billups now. So Chauncey is known for defense. Supposedly, they fired their previous coach because of defense. So they want to be more defensive as a team, and they got Jeremy Grant and Josh Hart's and this Nasser Littles trying to help in that department, and Gary Payton also. So they're trying to play defense, but defense sometimes it's not just blocking. Being able as a center, just being whether you show or whether you don't show on pick and rolls on ball screens, there are lots of intricacies there. So I think the Chauncey Billups scheme in defensively might be not conducive to him getting blocks
Right.
or registering blocks, because Nurkic just averaged 1.1 steals still last year, so there was still
Yeah,
some
for a
defensive stats.
center, he's a good steals guy.
Yeah.
Just not the blocks yet. Well, at least hopefully he gets that back. Now, Jeremy Grant, before we talked about some probable sleepers or bust, Jeremy Grant is the new acquisition here in Portland. Um, are you? I'm a bit lukewarm on Jeremy Grant, except for that year wherein I picked him in a lot of leagues because I felt like he was gonna do well. That was the first year in Detroit, I think. That's what happened. Right now, I'm not as high on Jeremy Grant. Um, Just because I don't think he's done well. I'm not sure what's gonna happen in Portland, but because in Detroit, it's like it's sure he's not gonna finish the season. Um, and the defensive stats aren't as good anymore. So, what are your thoughts on Jeremy Grant?
I think he's the answer if you ask me who's the bust here. Who's the possible bust in this lineup? It's Jeremy Grant. No, Nurkic, we said, has lots of holes now in his game, but at 60s, I think for a center, I think that's still okay. He's still a
But
solid
Grant's
center. So
going lower, I think.
Grant's going lower, but not low enough. Grant is going 80, around
So you think he's
80s.
around 100, below 100,
It's just
below?
like if Lillard is healthy, Simons averaged 17 to 18 points last year. Lillard, you expect him to average 25, 26, maybe even more. Then, of course, there's Josh Hart who can score. And there's Nurkic who averaged 15 to 16. Josh Hart will average 12, 13, 14. How many points do you think Jeremy Grant will average? In Detroit, he averaged 22.3 and then 19.2. But before that, in Denver, he averaged 12, 13, 8, 5, 8 this previous season. So, uh,
No,
I think
you're
he's
talking
going to
about
be more
scoring
like,
wise, but
yeah,
Jeremy Grant should be able to contribute a lot more, which he did in Denver.
yeah, but he's never been top 100 in Denver. His stocks in Denver was, and even in Detroit was okay. 0.7 steals, 0.8 blocks, 0.6 steals, 0.9 steals. Again, people are thinking Jeremy Grant is like Matisse Thybulle, that he can steal 1.5, 1.6. He's never done that in his career. He's never averaged one steal in his whole career. His highest is 0.9. No, 0.8. And then 0.9 last year in Detroit. So he's not really a steals guy. Blocks wise, yeah, maybe he can block okay for a power forward, small forward, but still not something, out of there. It's just that if you put a 22, if you make him a 22 to 20 to 22 point scorer, this all looks better. 22 points, 4 rebounds, 3
Yeah.
assists, 8 steals, 1 block. And then of course he can shoot 3-pointers, around 3-pointers. That becomes a well-rounded line. But if you make him around 13, 14 points, maybe 4 rebounds, a couple of assists, and then less than a steal a game, and then just 1 block, and then almost, 1.5 threes maybe. It's okay, but it's not, not top 80, I think. So maybe, he could be overdrafted this
Yeah.
year.
So he's your bust. I kind of agree. I think he's not going to be as good anymore. Who do you think surprises here? Does Josh Hart still surprise? I have to either it's going to be Simons or Josh Hart who's going to surprise you.
Uh, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Surprise wise, I have to be honest, I'm not really that I'm not that sure with Portland with how things would be, but I can say Nasser maybe. Nasser is a guy that might surprise. I know there's Jeremy Grant there, there's Josh Hart, but he showed something to me last year, and if he can get to 25 minutes maybe, uh get healthy, get to 25 minutes, maybe he could be the surprise here. Because
But
outside of him,
25 minutes is too a lot. That's a lot.
it's a lot. Yes,
That's
I
a
know.
lot coming from you ask. That's a lot of ask for someone who's going to be behind maybe Jeremy Grant and someone who will be coming off an ACL. I think he suffered an ACL injury, right?
I think it's not an ACL. I think
It's a season
it's not.
ending injury. I forgot what injury
Yeah,
was.
but I don't think it's an ACL. But I think, yeah, it's hard. It's hard. But if you really want a surprise that could potentially be, fantasy relevant, he's the guy I see here. Because Shadon Sharp, I really don't know this guy. I mean, he was picked 7th, and then people are saying that he's like Paul George. But he didn't play college. He didn't play his last year in high school. He played 7 minutes in summer league. So all we have from him is like when he was really, really young. So yeah, he could be Paul George. He could surprise, but I have to be honest. I really don't know about him. This
Well,
shade and sharp guy.
maybe Drew Eubanks surprises us and
Okay.
gives us
But but
some nice
Portland
stats.
Portland season will be, in the toilet bowl already if Eubanks actually surprises us and gets minutes again. Jabari Walker. Okay, I'll put a name out there for very, very, very deep leagues out there. Again, he's also like Nazir Little. He's also in the forward mix. Jabari Walker is a rookie. He was picked in the 50s, but this guy's good. This guy's good. So over Trendan, over Winslow, I think Jabari is someone you could consider. He's the son of Samaki Walker, if you guys remember him, the player from the Lakers before. And he impressed. He impressed a lot in the summer league. So Jabari Walker is for very deep leagues. For very deep leagues.
We don't remember Samaki Walker. Our age don't allow us to remember Samaki Walker. Let's move on to Sacramento. The Sacramento looks deep actually. But I don't know if they're gonna be good. But so starters
First
for
five.
the Aaron Fox. Barnes starts. I think is Murray a power forward?
Yeah, Murray's 3-4. Yeah, he's gonna start. I think he's gonna start alongside
he's gonna
Barnes.
start.
And then
Sabonis is gonna start. I think Monk starts though.
That's the question. Is it Huerter or Monk? You have
I think Monk
I
starts.
also I 60-40. I think it might be Monk because of the good. Of course, he's college teammates with Fox. They have chemistry there. He shoots well. Huerter also shoots well, but Huerter is a good ball handler. Maybe they'll need that more in the second five because Fox will not be there. They will have Davion Mitchell there. So it's a deep. You're correct. It's a deep team. If you look at it, it's a very deep.
It's a deep team because we know some names here, and yeah, even Holmes is there. Alex Len is there, one of our favorites. Even guys like Chumezi Metu were fantasy relevant, towards the end of the season. Right? Trey Lyles, Davion Mitchell, Terrence Davis was supposed to be a good fantasy option last year before he was out for season-ending injury. So lots of guys here that probably can surprise, right?
Yeah.
Who though could surprise us? Let's start there, I guess.
I won't say Sabonis will surprise, but I think people will be surprised with the Sabonis Fox combo this year compared last year. I know Fox disappointed last year. He was one of my favorites last year. But I think this is his year. Fox and Sabonis will have bounce back seasons. Sabonis especially. I feel like he's gonna go crazy this year. He's gonna really perform very well in his first full season in Sacramento. And then I think in a way Fox will surprise because he's being drafted, I think, in the 40s, right? And I think this might be the year that you can, if you're punting certain categories, this might be the year that you can pick him in the 30s. Because there is no Halliburton. I mean, there's no other better way for the team to tell you that this is your team by trading away probably the best rookie or best young player they've had in years. So it's confidence building for him. He's gonna score in the 20s, get a lot of assists. Free throws will suck, but he's gonna be a little surprise for me. But if surprise, maybe Keegan Murray.
Yeah, I actually like Keegan Murray. What he showed in summer league was interesting, to say the least. And I want to wait to see what the preseason looks like for him. Although he just got an injury, I think he just went through surgery, so I'm not sure. I think on the hand, so I'm not sure if that would affect his game. But I actually like Keegan Murray for Sacramento among the rookies.
He's gonna be healthy. I heard he's gonna be ready. I'm looking what his ranking is. I think he's being picked in the 100 range. When you get to the 100s, after Jabari Smith is picked around the late 90s to early 100s, Keegan usually gets picked right after. Maybe just a couple of picks after. And he might surprise people because there is a chance people are saying Jabari Smith could be the best fantasy option or fantasy rookie this year, and I agree. But there is a chance Keegan Murray might be the next player a bit after him, or might even beat him, because Keegan's a better offensive player right now.
Yeah.
Might not be as good defensively, but offensively he's better than Jabari, and then defensively he's better than Paulo. So he's right in the middle of both of them, both of those players. So there.
So yeah, that's Sacramento Kings. So any player who you think will be a bust this year for.
Can we keep on saying Harrison Barnes will bust? Because he always we always say he busts and he always busts, but people still pick him quite early. So yeah, I think Harrison Barnes will still bust.
Yeah, Harrison
Yeah,
Barnes is the player that when you pick him, you're already hesitant to pick him, but you'll pick him anyway, and then you'll try to find lots of reasons to say he's good. Like you'll make an excuse for him to say no, he's good. He's been shooting threes, but he's had some good games. In fairness to him,
well, last year he started well, right? And we're saying, is this the year? He's now the number one scorer of Sacramento. He can shoot threes before he doesn't shoot threes and everything. And then what happened? And then we're talking about sell high, sell high, sell high. I remember that in our daily quickies, we're saying, oh, is this true? Is this not? And then, well, what happened? He just fell out of the earth. And if
yeah,
you, and during that
you know,
time, people were selling him high, and they got good deals. So
yeah, they got good deals. But in an experienced league, no one wants Harrison Barnes.
yeah. I mean, if he's there in the
He's not even, that's another thing. When you pick a player, he's not even a very trade friendly player to
yeah.
send off to someone. He's probably someone that you just insert as a package, but the value would not be as good, right? So
Yeah.
how do you see Monk though in Werther's battle? Monk had a good year last year. I also feel that he might not be as good this year, given that there's more players, more offensive
Um.
players, I guess, in
Yeah, I
Sacramento.
think he's not gonna have the same year as the Lakers year, because in the Lakers he was really the only guy
He
they
was the
have
number
out.
two guy in the Lakers.
Basically, because AD was almost out the whole
Yeah,
year, he was basically their only shooter. Well, he has Huerter here, he has Terrence Davis here. Davion Mitchell might have to play shooting guard if Fox really busts out or plays well. So just too much competition, and of course, he can't really play small forward. He's a little small, and then there's Barnes there, there's Bazemore there, there's Keegan Murray there. Just too deep of a lineup for him to really. He's gonna have games where he shoots well. He's gonna have games where he gets 4 or 5 3-pointers, because he's that kind of a player. He's a streaky player, but I'm not intrigued with Monk this year. I'm not really interested in drafting him. I think the
when were
upside
you
is low.
intrigued with Monk?
Last year. Last
Were
year with the
you?
Lakers, because with LeBron, that was a good fit for him. If he stayed with the Lakers, he'll be, a better fantasy option. I think the guy here that we can maybe just brush on a little is Richaun Holmes.
Yeah,
He was of course top
he was one
80,
of the biggest busts last year.
yeah, but there was lots of issues there with him. I don't know. We found out it was a domestic abuse
Yeah,
thing that apparently was fake, not really true. So he was already acquitted with that case. So if yeah, but he has a bonus ahead of him. I know he's not gonna get a lot of minutes, not gonna get a lot of love. Sabonis injury will change that though. Sabonis injury will change that. Just people have forgotten about him, and just what I want to say is people have forgotten about him. But just keep his name in mind if Sabonis gets injured, or maybe Keegan, or maybe some other starter.
yeah. So yeah, the Sacramento Kings. For you guys, let's move on to the Toronto Raptors. Another team that maybe, well, they have changed some pieces here and there, but not major changes. so far. Van Vliet most likely starts. Trent obviously starts. OG starts. Scotty Barnes, Siakam, the starting five is pretty much set, I guess. Um,
Yeah, I
and
agree with that
the
five.
starting five would probably be the only fantasy relevant guys there. I don't know Boucher. Boucher has dropped off a bit, a lot in the drafts. No managers are
If
now
you
as
look at,
high as on him as past years.
yeah, for certain reasons, no, Pascal Siakam is the guy that's skyrocketed up draft boards and rankings. He's top
Yeah,
25, sometimes top 30 at the very least. And people have him as their center, and that's probably one reason. His rebounding is gonna improve, his field goal percentage, which is really low, is gonna improve. Maybe even more block shots. He's not a blocker, but if he plays center, that's gonna help him. So that's probably one reason, and that's probably one reason Boucher is not being talked about as much. For one, he's very very inconsistent. Number two, the coach hates him. We know that. And now the coach has not only Otto Porter, the coach has Thaddeus Young, the coach has a youngster in Precious Achua, he has Kem Birch, he has Bo Cruz. So,
Bo Cruz.
I mean,
One show.
Bo
Who?
Cruz just won the Eurobasket
Yeah,
for
who shot
Spain.
what
So
7 threes today?
I don't see how a guy who couldn't get minutes when they didn't have anybody suddenly get a lot of minutes when they have a lot of players in their in their lineup. It's super deep. The small forward, power forward, center position is really super deep.
Yeah.
Scary even for me. That's why I haven't drafted any OG.
Yeah,
I'm a little
OG
lower
is
on
one of
Barnes.
the players that I think would has dropped in terms of
Yeah.
value fantasy wise. Even Van Vliet has dropped. Maybe because
Van Vliet just dropped. Yeah.
he didn't have a good year. I think Siakam not really moved up, but I think the injury last year affected his draft position. But prior to that, he was going there within that second, third round range. So I think he just went back to
Yeah.
where people expect him to be. Scotty Barnes has moved up as well. I think uh, he has probably somehow what has he leapfrogged OG already
Yeah.
here,
Easily. That's not even a question anymore.
right?
Scotty's over OG by a mile right now.
Yeah, and he could be better this year after 1 year under his belt. And they run some offense through him. That's also another thing about Scotty, and that's why one of the managers in one of the leagues said that he would have preferred Cade over Scotty. Um, but we don't know still how Scotty's role will be here, and he could surprise us as well because early in the season he was what doing some triple doubles here and there, right? With
Yes, I
better
see some
stocks, right?
trades happening though. This is just too imbalanced, this roster right now. I think they have to make some moves to give Scotty more minutes. And if that happens, I would like him even more. I would like him more. Right now, as you said, you always mention that he's going really high. I mean, people are picking
It's
him
going high,
30.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't like it given this depth chart. I don't like that right now. But if a trade happens, as we talked about in our mock draft, our actual draft episode, that will be okay then. That 30 rank will be okay if a trade happens. But we don't know. We really don't know if that
So who
will happen.
surprises us here?
I will go Gary Trent. Gary Trent is
Wait,
around
who
9.
who finished higher last year? Was it Gary Trent or Drew?
Drew finished higher last year. I think I didn't check, but I remember we had an episode where we talked about it and we said that they're up right
They were
beside
close.
each
They were
other.
close. They were close.
They were close, right
I
beside each
think
other. And
Trent scaled back a bit. I think he regressed a bit towards the end of the season because
yeah,
of injuries too. I think he had some injuries as well. So yeah, so you have you pick Gary Trent surprising us.
Yeah, I think he's
He's not
90s to 100 something
he's
right
not
now.
a very popular player to pick, even if he performed last year. I
I
mean, he
think
was performing top 30, right?
people are not sure about his steals because that was just last year.
Yeah.
Last year, before that, he was not really good in steals, but last year he was really good in steals. So people are not sure, is that a fluke? Is that gonna continue? I think it will go down a little, but he's still more than one a game. Still more than one a game for sure. And then the 3-pointers still there. And then this depth chart helps him even more. I mean, Ron Harper Jr. and Justin Champagny or Danton Balano or Jeff Tautin. These guys are not gonna be a problem for him to get a lot of minutes. So I think Trent should be in the 70s. Should be in the 70s.
All right.
That's where
Who do you
he can
think
pick.
will be a bust here?
OG. I think we talked about OG, but I think that's the easy answer there. He's still going 40s, 50s sometimes. I think it's just not there. That's just not there anymore. He's not gonna be a star. And fantasy wise, he's not gonna be the player we thought he was.
I think the addition of Scotty Barnes hurt him a lot.
Yeah, hurt him a lot.
The
So
opportunities, the defensives, the stocks aren't there anymore. Because Scotty Barnes can play whatever role OG can play. And even better because Scotty can play a point forward role from time to time. So I think I think OG has plateaued as well, skill performance wise. I mean, everyone
yes,
thought he'll have a breakout season last year. But Scotty Barnes was the guy that really moved up last year, during his rookie year. So yeah, I agree. Toronto, anyone deep league player to watch out for here?
don't have anyone. Maybe Dan Delano Banton.
How
If
about Flynn,
if if Van
who
about
scored
who?
what? Malachi Flynn scored what?
No, I
17th.
think it's more of. I think Banton might be the guy that will get more minutes if Van Vliet goes down instead of Flynn. They like Banton, and I think he has improved. He played for Canada, in the America, and then in the qualifiers, and he was
Yeah,
he improved. So I think Banton. I would say Bo Cruz, but I don't think people are surprised about Bo Cruz anymore. He's
he's not. He's not a young player. He's kind of a veteran already.
yeah, but that's just a joke. He's not gonna get minutes here with Toronto. Not enough. I think Banton, because Banton can play point guard. Uh, as I said, the guard depth chart is not that deep, so Banton might be
Who's
the
the
only.
better? Who's the better Hernan Gomez anyway?
Ah,
Because
fantasy.
yeah,
I think one choice
because
okay as a player in real life, but Willie is the better fantasy
right,
prospect.
yeah, because
Yeah.
we've never really owned Juancho in any
Yeah.
fantasy leagues ever. I think, but Willie always has that small window wherein he's fantasy relevant. All right, let's move on to the last team, the Washington Wizards. Yeah, some changes as well happened here in Washington. Monte Morris was added. Will Barton was there. He's now
Bradley
there.
Beal, start
Bradley,
Kuzma.
yeah, Kuzma. Well, these guys are the last year's players, but yeah, there's no more Thomas Bryant, which created some logjam there at the center position. So who do you think starts here? Monte, Beal are definitely starters. I think Kuzma starts. Um,
Kristaps. Kristaps
Kristaps
starts.
starts, but does he start in the center position?
I think so. I think he'll start. They won't play him at power forward. He's a center. He's a center. They're not gonna play the Gafford for Zingis or Gibson for Zingis. Kristaps will start at center. The small forward position is up in the air. They could go Rui if they need scoring. They could go
No,
Will
but do you
Barton.
agree Kyle Kuzma starts?
Yeah, Kyle Kuzma starts. Kyle Kuzma starts. They could go Denny. because Denny fits the starting five because he showed with his defense and then
But
his ability to facilitate and contribute without the ball. So they could also go Denny there. So that's a question mark. I don't know either. I think it's Will Barton, but I'm not sure.
yeah, I think it's Will Barton. I don't think they will. I think they started Delhi at times for
Last year.
last year at times, but um with Will Barton there, I think he's the, well, at least the
But
popular
just to
starter choice, I guess.
yeah, just to play devil's advocate there, Will though is a sixth man guy ever since. So like Buddy Hield when we talked about Indiana, there's a possibility they bring him back because that's his role. Like Jordan Clarkson. I mean, these guys, this is just where they excel. Before
Yeah.
where they excelled before, so there's a possibility that they think that way also, and then they start Denny instead. That goes, he fits the starting five. He's a young player that they want to develop, and then it puts Will Barton in a better position to contribute instead of starting with starting five and then not get attempts where he's really just a scorer, and then he's gonna have to have to compete with Beal, with Kuzma, with KP. So possible. I mean, that's a possible situation there.
All right. So who do you think surprised us this year?
Well,
Monte? Last year, I think everyone was surprised with Kyle Kuzma.
I think Kyle Kuzma will not be as good as last year because last year Kuzma played most of the year without Beal.
Yeah.
And then he played a little only with Porzingis, which is later in the season. Now he has Beal and Porzingis. So Kuzma will see some drop in his. He's not gonna be the number one guy. He was a number one guy for them a lot of times last year because of the injuries, and I don't think that will happen this year. So he's probably the guy who could bust. Okay, Kyle Kuzma, but a player who could be a sleeper, maybe not surprise, is Kristaps. I think he's being picked at the late 40s. Last year he was top 24 when he was in Washington. I know that's just a few games, and he played until the silly season, which is surprising. So Kristaps might surprise. I think if you can get Kristaps in mid-30s, it's okay. I think that's where he could end up at the 30. So he might surprise. He might surprise people who with his performance this year.
Yeah, but that's not a big surprise, right? I mean, I think it's not the performance or the stats that worries everyone about Porzingis. It's always the injuries. The injury was, like you said, during silly season. I think everyone was a surprise as when he was still playing towards the end of the season, playing for nothing really. So
Yes.
and playing without Beal, so pretty much there's really no sense in playing him in terms of basketball wise. So yeah, that's not a big surprise. Do you think Monte surprises? I'm
I think
hoping he does.
Monte's being
I picked him
I
in
think Monte's
the other
being
league.
picked already. Monte's already being picked where he should be picked. I don't think he surprises. People might think that he will become all of a sudden a top 100 player because he's now the starter there and there's no Jokic. But there's Beal, there's Porzingis. It might not be Jokic, but he's not gonna be a scorer in in Washington. The same as in Denver. There are lots of players who can score here. Unless Beal gets injured, then yeah, Monte will be surprising. But if not, he's what he is. He's a solid point guard and spectacular. Really not gonna be blow you out of whatever. But he's gonna be
won't hurt
solid.
you. I think the biggest asset
Yeah.
in Monte Morris' game is that his game is clean, very clean. No, very low turnovers. Can shoot effectively. Can shoot the free throws. Can shoot the threes. So overall, if you were talking about Roto, he's one of the guys that you can pick towards the end of your draft just to help out on certain categories. But he won't blow you away with big stats, right? Not a double guy. Maybe he scores 15, 16 points every now and then, but not really a big scorer as well.
Johnny Davis, somebody there's the type pick this year's draft. He had a terrible summer league, but in college, this guy was really good. He could play. He knows how to play. But for deep leagues, maybe because he has Beal. So I don't know how they will use him, but he's
I
a good
still can't
player.
understand why Beal has fallen off a lot in drafts.
Because the past few seasons he's not been good. His ranking has really dropped the past few seasons. His shooting has really been bad the past few seasons.
2
So I
years
think
ago, was he
people
bad? He was with
a couple
Westbrook
of years
then.
already. Number one, he hasn't been able to finish seasons
Yeah,
with
that's
injury.
true.
So given that, and then given the field goal problems, like the past two seasons, 45%, 45%, then 3 points wise has been very low. 30%. His 3 points has been going way south. 38, 36, 35, 34, 30. So I think people are seeing like the progression of it's going down, and then his injuries. And then maybe
No,
that's
it's just surprising because last year he was injured most of the year, but he went first round in a 14-team
yeah.
league. So that drop off from that to this year, like he's been going third round, second round, late second.
30s, yeah,
I think
30s. Third
third
round.
round was the
Third
more
round.
common ADP for him. So that drop off is really surprising for me, and I feel like that's if he drops to third round, it looks like he could be a steal there, given the skill that he has.
I agree. I agree with you. There is a possibility there that he bounces back also. If you can get him at 30, 32, 33, 34, I think that's good. I mean, instead of SGA, I would rather go to him
Yeah,
instead of.
right.
I mean,
How about
but
Mitchell, Donovan Mitchell, for example, who has dropped
I,
off?
I'd rather go to Beal this year than Donovan Mitchell. I think, given.
But Mitchell has sometimes gone first over Bill. He has dropped. I mean, that really confuses me a bit. But I haven't really had that many drafts yet. I've just had two, so I don't know if that's the norm or maybe he might move up later on. But yeah, just surprising for me to see a player that went from first round last year to just third round this year. Just a big drop off, and considering that Beal is probably the number one guy in Washington,
I
still
guess
one
people
A,
haven't.
one B.
Yeah, I guess people also thought about foreseeing his effect on him because they didn't really play last year. So maybe they're including that into it. I don't know. That's possible. But again, I think the shooting woes have spooked people as well. Maybe they're thinking if he doesn't shoot threes that well anymore, then that's a big blow to his fantasy value because that's one of his strengths. So that's another thing. But I think you're correct in a sense that I don't think he's that good. He's not first round good anymore because of age and injuries and everything. But he's not third round bad that
Yeah,
yet.
he should be at
Yeah.
least somewhere there in the middle. But again, if he's going third round, I think he's worth a try. I guess he's worth a pick.
Yes, I agree. I
If,
agree.
especially if he
Instead of
falls to fourth, around 38, 37.
Oh, that's too low. I mean, if he falls that low, yeah, I would. You should go get him. You should go and get him there.
Yeah. All right. So that wraps up depth chart analysis for us guys. We went through all the teams. All of them are going to be posted in our YouTube channel. We also put clips there so that you don't, hopefully you listen to the whole thing. But if you don't have time for that, you can just go one team at a time and listen to it as you go through your day. All right. That's it, guys. Next week, we still don't know what we're going to talk about, but for sure, there's going to be a lot of things to talk about. Plus, of course, the drafts that we do. We'll have, I think, three this week, three drafts this week, and then I think four, if I'm not mistaken, four.
Three. I
This
checked.
week, what's 26th? 26th is next week already.
It's Monday.
All right, so
Monday.
26 is next week already. All right, that's it, guys. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers this year, this season, and hopefully our content are helping you guys with your fantasy game. And yeah, and follow us on wherever you listen to your podcast. We'll see you guys again in the next episode. Bye, guys.